Good afternoon. My name is Rick Gallop. I was formerly the President and CEO of the Heart and Stroke Foundation of Ontario from 1986 to 2002. And in fact, it was in 1986 when I first had the pleasure of meeting Barnett. Unfortunately, I couldn't be here today because I had a prior engagement. I will be in the UK when you see this video. My mother, who is 99 years old this year, it's her birthday, and I think this time, Barney, for once, she ranks in seniority. So I'm afraid I can't be with you today, but I'm sure I'm with you very much in spirit, and I hope everybody enjoys this video.
That set us on a career together because Dr. Barnett began to learn how important platelets were in arterial disease. And then we stumbled on the effects of aspirin on platelets.
3 years later, I mean, the man is non-stop going concern.
That was the beginning
and
of
it's wonderful.
a long relationship. Barney and I worked together on and off for about 16 years.
Stroke was such a devastating event in a family, and there was so much suffering, but something might be able to be done for it.
About stroke medicine and research on stroke anywhere in the world, the name of Barnett will at once be recognized as one of the world's leaders.
Everybody very quickly realized that there was a giant among men in Canada in the field of stroke, and that was Barnett.
Dr. Henry J.M. Barnett. Those close to him refer to him simply as Barney. His story is one filled with accomplishments and milestones that have paved the way for the future of stroke research in Canada and the world. Between 1944 and 1952, Dr. Barnett completed his residency and graduate training at the Toronto General Hospital, the Banting Institute at the University of Toronto, Sunnybrook Hospital, the National Hospital in London, England, and as a research assistant in neurology at Oxford University. In 1969, he became Chief of the Division of Neurology at Victoria Hospital in London, Ontario. 2 years prior, Dr. Fraser Mustard and Dr. Marjorie Zucker published a paper on the effects of aspirin on platelet survival, aggregation, and clumping. Dr. Fraser persuaded Dr. Barnett to run a clinical trial to determine if the drugs would prevent stroke. In 1970, Dr. Barnett led what has become known as the Canadian Aspirin Trial, which established for the first time that an antiplatelet drug could prevent diseases such as stroke due to arterial thrombosis. Today, people all over the world are living longer, healthier lives because of this research.
We stumbled on the effects of aspirin on platelets, which is the drug you take for pain. But we found out that aspirin inhibited the ability of platelets, which are normally non-sticky, to become sticky in the form of an obstructed device in arteries. They have to stick together. So that we found that aspirin prevented that. And that led Dr. Barnett to test whether if you gave aspirin to patients at risk for carotid artery disease and little strokes, whether you could actually prevent it by giving aspirin. The answer is yes, you can.
In 1986, Dr. Barnett co-founded the Robarts Research Institute. He was named the first scientific director and was president until 1992. He now holds the title of Scientist Emeritus at the Institute and remains a director. He is the author of hundreds of publications, including the authoritative textbook, Stroke, Pathophysiology, Diagnosis, and Management. In 1995, Dr. Barnett was inducted into the Canadian Medical Hall of Fame. He is the recipient of countless awards and honours, including Companion of the Order of Canada, the nation's highest civilian honour. As recently as 2008, Dr. Barnett became the first non-European to receive the Karolinska Stroke Award for excellence in stroke research. Heart and stroke to most Canadians go hand in hand, but it wasn't always the case. In the early days, the foundation was simply called the Heart Foundation of Canada.
He certainly set out to achieve I guess, a change in relationship between the foundation, which I represented at the time, and the research community in stroke. Stroke was viewed as the poor cousin in the cardiac stroke world, and obviously Barnett's objective was to get the first kick in here at the CAT with the new CEO, and he was most successful in achieving that.
It must be remembered that it was Barney who thought that stroke research should be under the umbrella of what was then the Heart Foundation, which then became the Heart and Stroke Foundation. So the man was not just a giant in terms of the research that was done, but also in terms of organizing support for stroke research. I think I'm quoting Sally Brown, the CEO of the Heart Stroke Foundation of Canada. The Heart and Stroke Foundation went from being the Heart and Stroke Foundation to being the Heart and Stroke Foundation, if you get the gist of what I'm doing here, which is that the emphasis on stroke research has been a growing enterprise within the Heart Stroke Foundation, and we're delighted for it.
In 1986, the Heart and Stroke Foundation of Ontario renamed its annual stroke lecture as the Henry J. M. Barnett Stroke Lectureship in his honor. In 1994, he received the Dedicated Service Award from the Heart and Stroke Foundation of Canada.
The environment that was created in the late 70s all the way through to the early 90s in London, Ontario was really quite a beacon. It was a place that people came from all over the world. It was a landing strip for neurology, and in particular vascular neurology, partly because of the hospital, largely because of Henry Barnett, and actually supported in large part by the Heart and Stroke Foundation of Ontario.
I think that the highlight of his career has been his work on stroke. There's no question at all that that has been in every way outstanding. And whenever you talk about stroke medicine and research on stroke anywhere in the world, the name of Barnett will at once be recognized as one of the world's leaders. Everywhere you go, any country you could name, where he and I have visited many of them together, any country you could name, Barnett for stroke is a name that really matters.
To this day, Dr. Barnett continues to lecture around the world, paving the way for the new generation of researchers. A visionary, a leader. Thank you, Dr. Barnett, for all you've given us.
Giving a gift by will to the Heart and Stroke Foundation is something that, on the part of my dad, is something that we, as his kids, know about and are pleased he's decided to do. The Heart and Stroke Foundation has been an important part of his life.
He's made a gift to the Ontario Heart and Stroke Foundation to help sustain its activities, to support creative work for the future. And that's basically the secret of why the Heart and Stroke Foundation has meant so much to the citizens of Ontario and Canada and the world.
Stroke has been his entire life. He owes his own good health and his own bright mind to this sort of research that was done partly by him, partly by many others within the Heart Stroke Foundation. It doesn't surprise me at all that he would want to recognize that by the gift that he is giving. And it's really closing the circle, isn't it?
He not only worked with the Heart and Stroke Foundation at the upper levels, but he also went to small communities, medium-sized communities, to speak to local chapters and local fundraising events like Chatham and St. Catharines. And no, he's been committed, but it's been a two-way street. He has gained from the Heart and Stroke Foundation as well.